He's, yeah. Plus, Jeremy Renner, Hollywood has tried to make him a big hit, a big star, but audiences have pushed back. And he's not commanding the salary that the rest of the Avengers, even Scarlett Johansson, especially Scarlett Johansson. I mean, like, he's probably making like 10% of what the rest of them are making. That's probably not true, but you know, I mean, he's cheap in comparison to Robert Downey Jr. and the rest.
But what's distinguishing about him?
Man,
that's the because you're right. I agree with you. What does he bring to the table? He's not a big guy. He's not a particularly handsome fella.
Right.
There's nothing distinguishing about him. Yeah, but the point is, when do you ever hear anybody go, do you know what? That Chris Hemsworth's hot. Chris Evans is hot, but that Jeremy Renner, he's
they're
else.
They're also quite a bit younger, and you know, muscly.
He's got a bit of muscle to him. He was all right. Fair. But the point is, yeah, you're right. There's nothing spectacular about his presence on screen that would make you want to see a Hawkeye film. But I certainly appreciate,
especially as an action star. I think that's the problem, is they keep trying to sell him as an action star, and like the movie. I mean, he won an Oscar for acting, but it wasn't in an action film. It was in The Hurt Locker. So, like, I kind of think that he might be better suited to do more dramas. But, I mean, those don't pay as well, and those aren't the big franchises, of course. But they tried to replace Matt Damon with him in the Bourne films, and that did not work. It seemed like he came in to be sort of the Tom Cruise replacement, or to look like they were trying to, gear it up so that he would be the replacement in Mission Impossible, and that did not work. It just seems like they keep trying to fit him into things, hoping that he'll be like tofu. Like, you'll just be able to mold him and flavor him into, Matt Damon or Tom Cruise or whatever other, actor, and he'll just be the same thing but a little cheaper.
Are you tired of having to pay exorbitant salaries for Tom Cruise and Matt Damon? Try Jeremy Renner. 10th of the price and almost half as delicious.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about him.
No, I agree.
They keep trying.
Hey, and once the Avengers is finished up and he has a happily ever after and no one wants to see him in a film again, then who knows? They can maybe put him back in some dramas.
Never will.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Get him in some those Nicholas Sparks, romance films. Maybe.
We'll get him doing...
He could be the new Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, well, he can do the odd comedy as well. I think he's got the chops for it. I think he'd do all right.
Have you ever watched any of those Nicholas Sparks films?
Give me a few.
Have you seen The Notebook?
No. Oh, wait a minute. No. Yeah, wait, let me rephrase that. No, actually, no, I haven't seen that at all. No. No, it's funny you should say that. It's on my list of films to watch. It's right under.
No, look, I'm not here to recommend Nicholas Sparks films, but like they fall into two camps. Because they're all these kind of, schlocky romance films. But either they're really, really grounded, where it's just this super earnest, romance about, people falling in love a long time ago and blah, 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 blah. Or they're batshit crazy with, like, weird supernatural shit. Like, I forget the one that has, what's... I'm tying this back to the Avengers because it's the one that plays, is it Maria Hill, Smulders, Colby Smulders, the one from How I Met Your Mother. Anyway, she.
Right, okay.
Colby Smulders, I think it's her name. Anyway, she's in one where she's literally playing a dead person trying to influence her boyfriend to go out with a new girl.
Okay.
Like, anyway, that's we're way off the topic. Except for Colby, wonder if she'll die. I wonder if she was snapped out.
She was snapped out.
Was she?
Yeah, she was right at the end. She gets snapped out before Nick Fury does, and then that's when Nick Fury goes for
you're right.
Goes for the pager, hoping. Do you know what? This person I'm beeping, I hope they didn't get snapped out of existence. Otherwise, this is going to look really stupid in about a year's time.
Yes.
Lucky for her.
Yeah, they if they do a prequel with for Black Widow, I don't think they're going to have to do very much of their make them look younger thing. I think they can probably get away with just having her be how old she is now and just pretend like it's 10 years ago.
Well, hey, do you know what? I'm going to put the question I had to one side for a second, because this brings up something me and you talked about the other day, which you said was a good conversation. I've actually tried explaining the concept to a few people since. I don't think they get it, though. So.
Oh, you mean the CGI thing?
Yeah, I don't think they get it. In the sense that...
Well, it's funny. Well, nobody listening to this now knows what we're talking about because we didn't record that. But maybe you should kind of fill people in on what you're talking about.
Very, very long conversation short. My theory is that maybe not immediately, but in the next 10 to 15 years, potentially a little bit longer, you'll start seeing these extensions of CGI performances to the point where you will have a whole film tailored around potentially an actor that's been dead for God knows how many years, because...
And what was the actor that you specifically brought
So
up?
we brought up two examples. The one that I thought proved my theory, and the one that I gave you to say, well, actually, the theory might not hold so much water. Bruce Lee, and... God, what was the other example? Example of a...
there are a few other actors you brought, like Heath Ledger and stuff like that, but Bruce Lee was the main one.
Bruce Lee was the one because he's got a brand that's endured for 40 years, despite the fact that he's been dead for most of those 40 years.
Now, have you... this is great timing, because this ties into another film. Have you seen the trailer for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I saw it, indeed. I did. It was funny timing.
Did you immediately go, oh my god, CGI Bruce Lee?
I thought it was a damn good impression.
For sure.
The look wasn't dead on, but it was a damn fine impression. It's pretty close, but the point is, it can never be dead on.
That's a funny scene, too.
It's a very good scene. And yeah, it's almost it's not. I was going to say it's almost psychic, but no, it's not psychic. It's just bloody coincidental.
It's great timing.
It's just insane timing there. But the point is that they've got an actor who's very clearly bears a striking resemblance to him, which is great. They can do whatever they want with him, but the problem is that they're going to be limited by what this actor can actually do with martial arts.
Of course. Sure.
Because he might not be the same level of martial artist, or even the same skill set.
To be fair, we don't actually know if he's doing much martial artsing in in that movie.
Oh, well, the trailer seemed to show that he was doing some martial artsing.
Well, because it's just, on set of a movie. But yeah, who knows? But supposedly Bruce Lee lived down the street from Sharon Tate, and so and even though that trailer didn't really indicate that what's coming for that character, we all know she gets murdered. So I wonder if this is going to be one of those Inglourious Bastards type things where they kind of redo history, and Bruce Lee comes in with maybe Bruce Lee fights the Charles Manson and the rest of them off, and I don't know if that's going to happen, but I like that's at least in my mind.
That would be cool. I'll give you that. That would be pretty dope.
That would be I have no idea how they're going to handle that, because Tarantino's not one for subtlety, and boy, they could handle that. They could handle that wrong. I worry. But it is, I mean, maybe this, because I think this generation, if they know Sharon Tate at all, it's only the fact that she was brutally murdered. And maybe it'll be nice to see that character, you know, before she died, and, you know, reintroduce that character, or that actress to a new generation.
But Tarantino's what you can trust about him is that he's going to introduce enough authenticity to the film that people will be adequately sucked into the realm that he's putting you in, and he'll just let the story follow its invariably preposterous conclusion. There's very little violence actually in the trailer, isn't it, for a Tarantino film? But they don't show a lot of violence in the trailers usually, do they? So
it's a teaser trailer, and I'm not sure I'm not sure how much violence there's going to be. We talked about there's clearly going to be the murder of Sharon Tate, or unless they change that in some way. I'm real curious to see what kind of violence is in this, because there might not be any. But then, like, it's a stuntman and an actor, or a TV Western actor trying to transition into movies. So maybe they go on an adventure together, and so who knows? Like, it's still a big mystery to me, and I like that. And I would rather they not give away too much.
That's fair enough. But just to rewind a tiny bit, just to the point.
Use that time gem to get us back.
Well, if only. Well, even
time stone.
Saying that, let's just veer right back off the topic again. As much as you might think that's useful, apparently Thanos is the only one in the entirety of the Marvel Cinematic Universe who's gone, so this time stone can stop and rewind time, right? I might actually want to consider using that power occasionally now that I have the stone and have access to its powers.
Right.
Rather than just sort of going, well, I have the stone, but I'm not going to use it. So just kind of person do you think I am, actually using the time stone for its time reversing powers? What kind of maniac do you think I am? It's just so silly.
But we really don't want we don't want people to be using that, because when you start adding in the timey-wimey stuff, then, you know, every conflict that ends wrong, you could just be like, well, why don't you just reverse time? And, like, you want it to to be limited.
Oh, you do?
Preferably, you want it to be taken out entirely.
Right, you do. So here's the problem with that. The first time the time stone is ever introduced, Strange uses it to create an endless time loop to stop Dormammu. That's how he saved everyone in that film.
Yeah.
So why not do that again? If that's, and I understand what you're saying, which is you can't just do that, otherwise you don't have films going forward, and that's not how they're going to do it. But he's got probably the most important Infinity Stone, and yet he didn't really use it. And it was the same with Vision. He has an Infinity Stone, but he doesn't use it. He gets stabbed, and that's kind of it for the film for him. So,
right.
I don't know. It just seemed like a lazy way out. Well, I mean, all things considered. Considering they had 2 of the Infinity Stones, they seem to be as woefully helpless as if they'd have had none at all.
They needed that gauntlet. They needed some place to put them all.
That's fair enough. Just saying.
Well, okay. Is Doctor Strange... This is a hot take. Is Doctor Strange the worst Avenger? And if not, who's the worst Avenger?
Is he technically an Avenger right now?
Yes.
Is he?
Yeah. He's on that team.
But he hadn't met Tony Stark prior to the event of that film.
Who cares?
Well, Tony Stark's the person that inducts people into the Avengers.
There's not like a. It's not a fraternity.
Well, let me put it to you this way: if Doctor Strange is the worst Avenger, he can be the worst Avenger and still be 10 times better than the Guardians were in that film. The Guardians of the Galaxy were the team, the people that let the entire team down in that film.
Sure, in that film. But in their body of work, they did not. Even though I think everything they did in that first film is basically undone by Infinity War. Because I think, don't they save all those people that in Infinity War just end up dying?
Pretty much.
That's just a planet they just, yeah. Anyway, no, I don't think that. I think that you could make a strong argument that Vision or Doctor Strange are the worst Avengers.
Okay.
Would I like Doctor Strange more if they cast a better actor?
Oh wow, we're going in this direction, are we? Okay. Well, let's see how this one goes down then. So, tell the nice ladies and gentlemen what you mean by that.
I mean, maybe an actor who has more to do than just mug for the camera.
I'm not sure that I'm still not sure they get what you're saying. What you seem to be? Are you referring to the great Benedict Cumberbatch? You're saying he's not a good Doctor Strange?
He's kind of a bad actor.
Cool. I'm glad you.
All right,
said.
no, I won't go that far. He's not on the level of Gerard Butler, but I will say that he's the most overhyped. He's just the most overhyped actor who is just so unspectacular in everything. Like, he's just, there's nothing I've seen him in where I'm like, man, I need to see more of him. Also, Sherlock is terrible.
Just wanted to add that in for a bit of extra pepper there. I like it.
Yeah. Just terrible.
Well, I will disagree with you on that
worse.
one. I'm going to stick up for my compatriot there because it's a little bit up its own arse with how clever it thinks it is. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But I still think it's a nice show. It's not something I go out of my way to watch, but if it's on, I will happily watch an episode.
I mean, the problem is that what you want in a good mystery is to be able to solve it, or, have all of the information so that you could potentially solve it before Sherlock does.
Right.
Except that in the Sherlock show, they hide all that stuff, and then all the big reveals are just things that you didn't know. That's like, oh, well, that solves the case because he just figured that out, and not because I could have figured that out myself. And that's cheap and really lame. Terrible show.
Well,
no, I'm not excited to see Benedict Cumberbatch in anything, but he was also bad as Khan in that Star Trek movie. Just like, ugh.
Oh, dearie me. Well, right.
We'll lose all the viewers.
Let me steer the conversation a little bit. I'm supposed to be the co-host, so I suppose I should try and take some authority over the situation.
You're the full host.
If you say so.
I'm just hitchhiking my way onto this.
If you say so. Barely remember we're supposed to be recording this at this point. So.
Wait, I was supposed to push record?
I haven't. I'm just talking so that all the voices in my head stop for 5 minutes. You'll get your turn. Question: as one content creator to another, going this way. How hard is it to continue to make videos when you can watch your old ones from time to time and always find things that you would have liked to have done better with them?
Well, boy, that's an easy question to answer.
Oh, great.
Because I don't watch the old videos.
Oh, there you go then. Handy.
And I don't read a lot of the old reviews. I don't really go back and look at the old stuff.
Okay.
Unless somebody has a comment or a question about it, and then I'll read it. Here, the problem is that like I tend to review about 130 to 150 games a year. So if it's something that I reviewed 3 or 4 years ago, I end up like, there are a lot of times where I was like, I reviewed that? And I have no idea that, what that game even was. We could do a whole show dedicated to you just quizzing me on games that I reviewed 4 or 5 years ago that I would know nothing about.
Okay.
Because they're just in one ear, out the other, essentially. And it's not necessarily because they're bad, it's just because I'm playing so many games that they don't always stick with me.
100%.
And
sure.
Like, it's sometimes that, and that's why, in a lot of cases people will say, it's better to you would rather have an audience boo you than an audience, stay silent.
Sure.
Because at least you're getting some sort of reaction, and at least you can do something with that. But I mean, yeah, like in a lot of cases, there are just a lot of games that are just really very average, that like they just don't stick with you. Whereas there are a lot of really, really terrible games that I would never want to play again in my life, but I will always remember those games. So it is in some ways it may be better to be really bad than it is to be just sort of in the middle.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, it's probably more to do with because I don't know if you, because I see this occasionally with some of the mainstream content creators on YouTube, and I know you don't necessarily define yourself as a YouTube. In fact, I know you don't. But there are a lot of people that do these days. A lot of people that are younger than even me, because I'm getting old as shit now, and
don't
I know. It's everyone tells me the same thing, which is, Lorne, you're not old. Listen, I feel fucking old. All right, I feel ancient.
Just you wait. Just you wait.
I'll give it time. But point is, so there are people that define themselves by that medium. But then you also see something I don't know if you necessarily have seen that happens publicly with a lot of these people, which is that they break down. They have these weird mental games that they play with themselves, that the viewers play with them and they with the viewers. And it's this weird cycle. With smaller content creators, like me, to a lesser extent, a few other people as well, you go through this weird thing of, well, I don't want anyone to... I mean, we've had this conversation a million times. I don't care what anyone else thinks. I don't care if anyone watches too. God, why is no one watching? I really want everyone to love my stuff and share it and make me the biggest YouTuber. And so you go through this weird process of wanting attention and not wanting it and questioning everything. What do you think, though? Because you've mentioned that you don't watch your old videos, for one. No. I know from our conversations that there's only certain things that you pay attention to on videos. Is that because of that? Is it because you know that that's a pitfall?
You mean other people's videos?
No, on yours. So I'm talking. Oh. So I'm talking from the perspective of an aspiring content creator. Even though I've been doing it for a couple of years, I still consider myself aspiring because I haven't really found a groove or an audience that's sizable yet. Because we've had this conversation. Because I'm not really interested in finding it at this point. But there are people that are. There are people that are desperate to kind of find their voice and find some kind of momentum from somewhere, and then carry it into something larger, and then hopefully, that carries itself from there. But people struggle with that, and even when they get there, they seem to struggle with it too. They struggle with the fame. They struggle with the constant, not harassment. It's probably too strong a word, but the constant expectation of when's your next thing coming out, and if you don't do the exact same thing, then I'm going to hate you, and if you don't do something different from the last thing, I'm going to hate you. So. How do you contend with that? Because I know you're on Twitter as well. So how do you contend with that, considering that your channel, for instance, gets a fair amount of a fair amount of views, a fair amount of comments, a fair amount of shares, a lot of interaction on other social media platforms? How do you contend with that going video to video?
really just stay focused on the schedule. I know that my plan is to do usually daily weekday, Monday through Friday videos or reviews, and so yeah, I mean my plan is to just sort of stay on that schedule and just kind of focus on that, and that takes up enough time to where I'm not really focused on the negativity or some of the, it also keeps me busy. I also like it. And, it's not one of those things where, I mean, there are a lot of people who will just devote themselves to only one type of game or only one game, where they'll just, stream or just do content about Fortnite or Apex Legend or, something like that. For me, one thing I love is just the amount of games that I cover. Like I said, it's 130 to 150 games a year that I review. And for the most part, it ends up being just this huge variety of things that I would, in a lot of cases, indie games I would never have thought about playing if I wasn't reviewing them. So there's a nice variety there. And then it's a juggling act, because there are the reviews, and then there's a lot of the retro stuff, because I do a lot of analyzing old magazines, and we have a series where we're counting down the top 10 and bottom 5 games based on the review averages for Electronic Gaming Monthly, and we did it for Nintendo Power, and so like doing those. And then also the shows where we review the endings of classic games. Like, there's enough variety there where it doesn't feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over and over, and that makes a huge difference, I think. I cannot stress that enough, because I think the burnout comes from just doing the same thing over and over and having sort of the same... I can imagine it feeling like you're in Groundhog Day, where you're just and a lot of the and to an extent, a lot of the people, and I'm not saying that this is necessarily always the case, but a lot of the people that they get burned out, I notice that it seems like a lot of their stuff is sort of geared towards anger and drama and things like that, and I have to imagine that some of that kind of takes it out of you, because you kind of have to be at, you have to be at a certain, emotional level, or that's not the term I'm looking for, but you have to feel like you have to get into that mindset and kind of stay in that mindset for all of these things. And I don't know. Maybe I'm lucky that I have not had that situation where, I don't, I'm not criticizing others that have had the situation where they have burnout, because I mean, everybody needs to take a vacation from time to time. Everybody needs to take a step back and do some personal things. But I think that the trick is just variety. Just do different things. And so that it doesn't always feel like it's the same thing, and it doesn't become a grind.
Because, number one, I agree with everything you just said there. I've experienced that, and in fact, you've probably seen it in some of my videos, because you do, with those more emotional videos, you get tied into the drama to the point where you almost seek it out, but then you resent the fact that there's the drama in the first place. And it becomes this weird, unproductive cycle of just bile, and it weighs heavy on you. Whereas you kind of hit the nail on the head with one of your points there, which is you enjoy it. It's fun. And I've made that point to you again about my channel versus other people's channels where people get frustrated with me for the same things. And I know you've been frustrated with me with a bunch of stuff. But anyway, the channel, for instance, is... You should just, but that isn't fun to me. What I do is fun. And in fact, one of the reasons why I like doing YouTube is that it's one of the few things that I've ever done that affords me as much creativity as I can imagine and I can put in. if I can work harder on a video to make it better, then I can make it better. It's just a question of, do you want to just release it in its current state, or do you want to tinker with it? Do you want to do something completely different, scrap it? The choice is really yours. And that's something that I think's been lost a little bit in YouTube, because I think with a lot of people, and in fact, I would imagine, again, prior to this little shindig of ours starting, I rattled through a few ideas. I imagine
they were terrible.
I imagine part of the reason why is because you said, well, there's nothing terribly original about a lot of those ideas.
No. The ideas themselves were fine. It's just, there were a bunch of things I would have needed to prepare for.
Because we haven't really, because people who might not have heard of you before, which is rare, because again, I've spoken about you a million times. And you are, the last I checked, if I go onto Twitter right now, it is a certifiable fact that you are the single most popular human being on the face of the planet ever, and ever will be.
That's definitely not true.
Oh, it's here. I just tweeted it, so now it's a fact. Is that I just need to tweet that real quick, because otherwise I'm gonna be called out for a liar on my own podcast. What was I going to... I've completely lost...
And then you're going to go on Twitter right now and see the breaking news that the developer of the game that we did the quiz about, that went up today, the Pixel Colors,
Indeed.
has been tweeting us while we've been doing this podcast.
Oh, really?
This is a good time to recommend that quiz to everybody listening to this right now, because it's a very good quiz. I had... Lauren look at a bunch of pixel pictures from a game called Pixel Colors, and he got maybe a few of them right out of like 37 or 36.
I consider that a decent return, all things considered.
But I get a lot of games to review just from things I didn't request. I'll just get a lot of codes, and that's one of the things where they just sent me the game, and I was like, well, even if I review this, no one's going to click on it, because, I hate to say it, but puzzle games don't get a lot of clicks. And so I was like, boy, but I still want to cover this, because it's a really good game. And I think we made a pretty fun little half-hour quiz out of it.
I thought
people should go and watch.
It was a lot of fun
right
participating in it. And from the looks of the couple of comments that I've seen so far, it looks like everyone else had a fun doing it as well, which is great, because it means that people hopefully are... Because I think that's... If you're going to make anything on YouTube, it should be something that's fun and people get a kick out of. And it's great seeing that you've... Oh, we're getting some... Oh, is that... Oh, okay. No, not going to say anything. So yeah, I've lost the thread again. I'm like a cat running up a wall against a laser pointer right now. I have no idea what I was just chasing. I just want it to come back so I can hit it somewhere.